Families in mourning today.
It was the most terrifying moment of my life.
After a mass shooting at a mall, a piece of South Florida preserved.
The history in South Florida is the history of Miami and the history of the Keys, and there's nothing in between.
At the site of the city's original town hall. Playoff dreams still alive for the Panthers.
So Gudis, a wrist shot, score!
And the Heat. Plus, the United Kingdom is still buzzing after Coronation Weekend. These stories and more coming up on Newsbreak.
Hello, South Florida. I'm Kenneth Bueno.
I'm Samantha Gutierrez. Today is Monday, May 8th, 2023.
Live from the FIU Lee Kaplan School of Journalism and Media, this is SFMN Newsbreak.
It was the most terrifying moment of
Mall
my life.
mass shooting. A community is in mourning after a shopping center tragedy. We're learning information this morning about the man police say is responsible for gunning down several shoppers near Dallas.
As CNN's Chris Wynn reports, details about the victims are also emerging as the community tries to make sense of the tragedy.
According to a local medical group, the victims in the attack range in age from 5 to 61 years old. Several of them remain hospitalized here in the Dallas area.
This morning, the aftermath of yet another mass shooting in America weighs heavy on the hearts of many.
It was the most terrifying moment of my life.
Saturday afternoon, a gunman opened fire at an outdoor outlet mall in Allen, Texas, killing 8 people and wounding at least 7 others. A trail of carnage as shoppers desperately ran for cover.
I went to the third person who moaned. I knew he was alive. I felt for a pulse. There was no pulse, so I did the first chest compression. He spit up blood, and then his eyes went fixed and dilated, and I knew I'd lost him.
Police say the gunman, 33-year-old Mauricio Garcia, was killed by an Allen police officer who was at the mall on an unrelated call nearby when the shooting started. Investigators believe the shooter acted alone. Authorities have yet to identify a specific motive, but investigators have uncovered an extensive social media presence by the gunman, including a possible link to right-wing extremism, according to a senior law enforcement source familiar with the investigation.
We're going to need prayer. Jesus, take the wheel.
Meanwhile, the Allen community coming together Sunday night to honor the fallen victims, including Christian LaCour, whose sister told CNN Christian was a sweet, caring young man who is loved greatly by our family.
The Gun Violence Archive says there have been more than 200 mass shootings in America so far this year. Reporting from Allen, Texas, I'm Chris Wynn. Back to you.
Horrifying security camera footage captured the moments before an SUV slammed into a crowd of people outside of a migrant shelter. It was yesterday morning in the border city of Brownsville, Texas, where 8 people were killed in the crash, which officials initially said appeared to be intentional. At least 10 others were hospitalized along with the driver, whose identity remains unknown. Police have since described him as uncooperative.
Lawmakers are sounding the alarm as the number of migrants gathering at the U.S.-Mexico border increases in anticipation of the expiration of Title 42. Title 42 is the COVID rule that enabled the U.S. government to expeditiously expel migrants. The rule is set to expire Thursday, and according to the Department of Homeland Security, smugglers who profit from vulnerable migrants are spreading misinformation that is leading to an increase in people at the border. House Republicans are set to vote Thursday on a border security package to succeed Title 42, but is not expected to pass the Democrat-controlled Senate.
Down in Homestead, the original town hall remains in use today, not as a government building, but as a museum of local history. Kaplan News reporter Rafael Hernandez takes you on a trip through time.
Museums are places with all sorts of stories, and here in downtown Homestead, the historic Town Hall Museum has many of its own to tell. In what was once Homestead's very first town hall, the museum offers a look into the city's history through pictures, books, and a nearly 100-year-old fire truck.
I like to say that the history in South Florida is the history of Miami and the history of the Keys, and there's nothing in between. So we're trying to fill that hole in between.
Catherine Fleming, acting director of the historic town hall, takes care of the museum's artifacts, making sure they stand the test of time.
A community history helps people gain a sense of place. By telling stories here, it can make people in the community identify with the place where they are.
seeing how much the city has changed already, it's very important to document the change that has happened before. And I learned a lot of things that I didn't know about the city and how everything along this road looked so much different.
So I think it would allow the people who are coming in to get an idea of the history. So I just feel like the museum would allow individuals to, see the past and the present and make a decision as to how they can contribute.
The Historic Town Hall Museum keeps the tale of Homestead alive for its guests, but it does so much more. We have various groups come in from history classes, honors programs, and that sort of thing, and we talk to them about the local history. I think it's very important because there doesn't seem to be anything in the school system that actually teaches much about local history. As Homestead continues to grow and evolve, the Historic Town Hall Museum remains a vital part of the community. It keeps its doors open to ensure that the city's history is not lost. From the South Florida Media Network, this is Rafael Hernandez. Museums are places with all sorts of stories, and here in downtown Homestead, the historic
The potential Republican primary face-off between Trump and DeSantis had a preview over the weekend. As reporter Nolan Bullman tells us, there were Trump protesters outside the venue near Green Bay, Wisconsin, and inside was Florida Governor Ron DeSantis.
The governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis.
In front of a sold-out crowd of nearly 600 guests, Governor Ron DeSantis' message was to promote the Florida way.
So what's the good news? The good news is the state of Florida and what we've achieved shows Republicans can win again.
With this year's Lincoln Day dinner, they view their guest of honor as an easy choice for their annual event.
We were able to get Governor DeSantis, who's probably one of the leading people in our party at this point, with the great reforms that he's put in place in Florida and has made Florida the go-to state in America.
A guest they don't take for granted.
It's not often that you get people that come through that are this prominent, and people respect that, and there's just a whole lot of energy that surrounds Governor DeSantis.
While guests within the building are pleased with DeSantis' appearance, those outside the building had different thoughts.
Oh, I like DeSantis, okay. I think the country was in much better hands when Donald Trump was president, and I'm ready for him to be there again.
But for Representative Tiffany, he views event protesters as a positive for future primaries.
The people that are supportive of another candidate, you should go out there and work like heck for your candidate, because that's what we're going to have. We're going to have a dynamic primary here over the next year and a half, and that's a good thing for the party.
That was Nolan Bullman from WSAW reporting. Saturday night's dinner was expected to raise more than $30,000 for the Republican Party of Marathon County, eclipsing an organization record set years ago.
A morning of celebration in Britain ended with crowds gathering in front of Buckingham Palace's balcony to welcome the newly crowned King Charles III and the royal family. Other working royals joined the King and the Queen on the balcony, including the Prince and Princess of Wales and their children. However, two members of the royal family were notably absent from the balcony, Prince Harry and Prince Andrew.
For what he's done, for what he said about the royals, I don't think he should have said what he said. I don't think that was necessary. But then that's up to King Charles. It's his son. It's his decision.
On Sunday with the coronation concert that will take place on the grounds of Windsor Castle. The headliners include Katy Perry, Lionel Richie, and Take That.
Scootis, a wrist shot.
Was the center of the car racing universe over the weekend.
That's still ahead, and so is this story.
Scootis, a wrist shot. Score! Carter for Hagee.
Overtime for the Panthers as they try to take a hold of their playoff series with the Leafs. Newsbreak will be back in 2 minutes.
could really use a new tablet. I just don't have the money.
Let me ask you something. Do you have a Pell Grant?
Yes?
You do know you can get a free tablet, right?
Did you say free?
Yeah, free. It's simple. And the application is done in the store.
I could really use a tablet.
Go get one. Another satisfied customer. Stop by Panthertech in the Graham Center at FIU MMC today to speak with one of our associates to get your free tablet.
Type 2 diabetes can have a big impact on your life. But how can it be prevented? Well, the first step is knowing if you have something called prediabetes. Take the 1-minute risk test today at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Raking the leaves, the Panthers doing a little gardening as their series with Toronto shifts to Sunrise. After being at risk of going home in the first round of the playoffs against the Boston Bruins, the Florida Panthers have a 3-0 lead in the second round against the Toronto Maple Leafs.
The Cats were down 2-1 for most of the second period, but were able to tie the game towards the end of the period. In the third period, both defenses were able to keep the puck out of the goal, sending the game into overtime. There, the comeback Cats were able to score, handing them the W. The final score was Panthers 3, Leafs 2. The two teams will face off on Wednesday at 7 p.m. for Game 4 of the series.
The Miami Heat are also having a run in their second round of playoffs. After Heat took out the #1 seed Milwaukee Bucks, the Heat have been playing against the New York Knicks. They have a 2-1 lead in the series against the Knicks after sitting out Game 2 with an ankle injury. Jimmy Butler showed off his return in the game, scoring 36 points. And we can expect him to suit up for Game 4 today at 7 p.m.
For the second time ever, Hard Rock Stadium brought the fanfare and glamour of Formula One's international tour to town for the Crypto.com Miami Grand Prix. Miami set the stage with celebrities such as Elon Musk, Vin Diesel, and more showing up to witness the rock stars of racing lap around the International Autodrome. Oracle Red Bull Racing driver Sergio Perez led the race early from the pole, but teammate and defending champion Max Verstappen took control midway through the race. Verstappen stayed in command and picked up his second straight win in the 57-lap event. You're watching Newsbreak, and we'll be coming right back.
Last week, Brandon met a girl on a dating app. One day after work, he finally found the courage to ask her out. No answer. He started to panic. Was he being too pushy? Maybe it was too...
Hey, sorry I didn't respond. I was driving. I would love to go on a date. How does tonight sound?
Brandon tried to play it cool, but inside he knew. A girl so smart, so responsible. She must be a keeper.
How do you know when you've made the right decision? It's the feeling you get in your gut. The one that tells you what's right or wrong. It's the one that says, sure, I can have a drink. Or the feeling that says, okay, I've been drinking. Now what? It's the voice inside you that says, I'm buzzed. Better leave the car when it's time to go. Plan ahead. Catch a sober ride. Buzz driving is drunk driving.
Every day,
Every day,
millions of people are connecting.
and even though we're overcoming obstacles,
watching each other's backs,
And banding together.
we should still make an effort.
We should still make an effort.
to get to know each other,
On a deeper level. Father.
cosplayer,
Mentor.
Actor.
It's time we take a step forward.
it's time we take a step forward.
Come together
And discover
How accepting our differences
can make us stronger.
That's all the time we have for Newsbreak. I'm Samantha Gutierrez.
And I'm Kenneth Bueno. Get more news anytime at sfmn.fiu.edu.